Welcome to Women Tennis USA. I am Mary Carillo, and today we turn our full attention to a name that is no longer whispered as a promise but spoken aloud as a declaration of what's coming next in women's tennis. Alex Eala is not simply a rising star, not merely a talented junior who made good, and not just a compelling story from outside the traditional power centers of the sport. She is a signal. She is evidence of a shift that is already underway. She represents the future of women's tennis in a way that is technical, cultural, competitive, and deeply human. Alex Eala's journey matters because of how it started, but even more because of how it has evolved. She came into the global tennis conversation as a prodigy from the Philippines, a nation with passion for sport but little historical footprint at the very top of professional tennis. From the beginning, she carried more than her own ambition. She carried the attention of an entire country and, whether she asked for it or not, the hopes of young players who finally saw someone who looked like them on the biggest junior stages in the world. When she won the U.S. Open girls singles title in 2022, it was not framed merely as a victory. It was framed as a breakthrough, and rightly so. But the real story begins after that trophy, after the photos, after the headlines moved on. What separates Alex Eala from so many gifted juniors is that her game was never built just to dominate age group competition. Her development has been deliberate, patient, and professional from a remarkably young age. Training at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, she was immersed in an environment that values discipline, resilience, and clarity of purpose as much as forehands and footwork. You can see it in how she constructs points. You can hear it in how she speaks about losses. There is a steadiness to her presence that feels uncommon for someone still so early in her professional career. Technically, Eala's game is a reflection of where women's tennis is headed. She is not defined by one overwhelming weapon but by balance. Her left-handed game immediately creates matchup problems, especially on the ad side where her cross-court forehand opens the court with natural angles. That lefty serve, while still developing in terms of raw power, is placed with intelligence, often setting up the next shot rather than chasing aces. In an era where serve +1 patterns dominate, her ability to think 2 shots ahead already places her in a modern tactical framework. Her baseline game is built on timing rather than brute force. She takes the ball early, redirects pace cleanly, and shows an advanced understanding of when to step inside the court and when to reset a rally. This is important because women's tennis has become faster, not just in ball speed but in decision-making. Points are shorter, windows are smaller, and the ability to recognize patterns quickly is essential. Eala's anticipation and court awareness suggest a player who understands this reality intuitively. But the future of women's tennis is not just about shot selection and athleticism. It is about adaptability. The tour is global, surfaces vary, conditions change weekly, and players must constantly recalibrate. What stands out about Eala is how comfortable she looks making those adjustments. Clay, hard court, indoor conditions, outdoor heat, she approaches each challenge as a problem to be solved rather than an obstacle to complain about. That mindset is not flashy, but it is foundational for longevity at the highest level. There is also a mental dimension to her game that deserves serious attention. Pressure in tennis is relentless. Every point is a referendum. Every match can feel like a judgment on your entire career. Young players often struggle with this weight, especially when expectations accelerate faster than results. Eala has faced this from the moment she became a national figure, yet she has consistently shown emotional control that belies her age. She competes with intensity, but she does not spiral. She absorbs momentum swings and responds rather than reacts. This emotional maturity is critical when we talk about the future of women's tennis, because the sport is evolving into one where mental resilience is as decisive as physical preparation. The margins are thinner than ever. The depth of talent means that early round matches can feel like finals. In this environment, the ability to stay present, to manage nerves, and to trust long-term process over short-term outcomes is what separates contenders from cautionary tales. Alex Eala also represents a broader evolution in how young players are developed and supported. Her career has been shaped by a blend of global training, strong family backing, and a clear sense of identity. She has never seemed lost between cultures or confused about where she belongs. Instead, she embraces her roots while operating confidently on an international stage. That matters in a sport that increasingly draws its stars from diverse backgrounds and expects them to connect with a worldwide audience. Women's tennis has always been global, but its next chapter will be even more inclusive. The pathways to the top are expanding, and players from nations previously underrepresented are no longer anomalies. Eala is at the forefront of this movement. She is not a novelty. She is a prototype. Her success challenges outdated assumptions about where elite tennis players come from and how they are made. From a commercial and media perspective, her presence is equally significant. The future of the sport depends on stories that resonate beyond traditional markets. Eala's journey captures imagination because it combines excellence with authenticity. She is articulate without being rehearsed, confident without being manufactured. Sponsors, broadcasters, and fans are drawn to that genuineness. It signals a future where personality and performance are aligned rather than intention. Yet, it is important to be clear-eyed. The transition from junior success to sustained professional achievement is one of the most difficult passages in tennis. History is littered with prodigies who stalled, burned out, or were overtaken by peers who developed later. The reason Alex Eala stands apart is not that she is immune to these challenges, but that her approach acknowledges them. Her team speaks openly about patience. Her scheduling reflects an understanding that growth is non-linear. There is no rush to declare her finished product, and that restraint may be her greatest asset. Physically, she is still evolving. Strength, endurance, and durability will all be tested as she plays longer matches against more experienced opponents. This is where modern sports science and intelligent training come into play. Eala's environment prioritizes injury prevention and gradual physical development, which aligns perfectly with the demands of the contemporary tour. The future of women's tennis will reward those who can stay healthy across long seasons, not just peak briefly. There is also the question of identity on court. The very best players eventually develop a signature presence, a sense that the match bends around their will. For Eala, that identity is emerging. It is rooted in competitiveness, in problem-solving, and in an understated confidence. She does not seek to overpower opponents with theatrics or intimidation. Instead, she applies pressure through consistency and clarity. This style may not always dominate highlight reels, but it wins matches, and over time, it wins respect. When we talk about the future of women's tennis, we are also talking about leadership. The next generation will inherit a tour shaped by legends who redefined professionalism, advocacy, and excellence. Alex Eala has already shown an awareness of her platform. She speaks thoughtfully about representing her country and inspiring young athletes, not as a burden, but as a privilege. That sense of responsibility suggests a player who understands that greatness extends beyond rankings. Her influence in Southeast Asia cannot be overstated. Tennis participation, visibility, and investment in the region have received a measurable boost from her success. This ripple effect is exactly what the sport needs to sustain growth. Future champions are often inspired by seeing possibility made real. Eala has become that point of reference for countless aspiring players, and that legacy is already in motion. Strategically, the evolution of women's tennis favors players like Eala who blend defense and offense seamlessly. The days of rigid playing styles are fading. Today's champions must transition fluidly from counterpunching to aggression, from baseline exchanges to net play. Eala's willingness to come forward, to use variety, and to disrupt rhythm reflects this trend. She understands that control of space is as important as control of pace. Her left-handedness adds another layer of strategic complexity. Lefties have always posed unique challenges, but in a tour dominated by right-handed players, their patterns can expose habits and weaknesses. Eala leverages this intelligently, not relying on novelty, but integrating it into a broader tactical plan. This is another marker of a player thinking long-term rather than exploiting short-term advantages. The future of women's tennis will also be shaped by how players handle visibility and scrutiny in the digital age. Social media amplifies every performance, every comment, every moment of vulnerability. Eala navigates this space with composure. She engages without oversharing, communicates without courting controversy, and maintains focus amid constant noise. This balance is essential for mental well-being and sustained performance. From a purely competitive standpoint, her trajectory suggests a player who will be comfortable on the biggest stages. She has already shown an ability to raise her level against strong opponents, to treat high-profile matches as opportunities rather than threats. That psychological framing is crucial. The future belongs to players who embrace the spotlight without being consumed by it. It is also worth noting how Eala's story intersects with the broader narrative of women's sports gaining deserved recognition. Her success arrives at a moment when audiences are more receptive, more informed, and more invested in women's competitions. She benefits from this environment, but she also contributes to it by delivering performances that validate the attention. This reciprocal relationship between athlete and audience is central to the sport's growth. Critically, Alex Eala embodies a shift away from singular dominance toward sustained excellence within a deep field. The next era of women's tennis is unlikely to be defined by one untouchable figure. Instead, it will be characterized by competitive parity, frequent challenges, and evolving rivalries. Eala's adaptability and consistency position her well in such a landscape. She does not need to overwhelm the field, she needs to stay present within it. Her educational background and articulate nature also signal a more holistic model of athlete development. She speaks with insight about her career, her goals, and her learning process. This intellectual engagement with the sport enhances her ability to self-correct and evolve. Tennis at the highest level is as much about reflection as repetition, and Eala demonstrates an understanding of that balance. Looking ahead, the milestones will come: rankings breakthroughs, deep runs at major tournaments, moments of disappointment, moments of triumph. What will matter is not the speed at which they arrive, but the context in which they are absorbed. Eala's foundation suggests she will meet these moments with perspective. That quality is often invisible in highlight packages, but it is essential for a career measured in decades rather than seasons. The future of women's tennis demands athletes who are complete competitors, global ambassadors, and resilient individuals. Alex Eala checks those boxes not because she was designed to, but because her journey has required it. She has grown up navigating expectation, distance from home, and the relentless evaluation that comes with elite sport. Those experiences have shaped a competitor who is prepared for what lies ahead. As the tour continues to evolve, as new technologies, training methods, and tactical trends emerge, players like Eala will define what excellence looks like in this new context. She is not chasing the past. She is building towards something next. Her game, her mindset, and her presence align with where women's tennis is going, not where it has been. In the end, the case for Alex Eala as the future of women's tennis is not based on hype or projection alone. It is grounded in evidence, in how she plays, how she prepares, how she responds, and how she represents the sport. Futures are not guaranteed in tennis, but they are earned through consistency of purpose. Eala has shown that purpose at every stage of her development. So when we talk about the next era, about who will carry the sport forward with integrity and intelligence, her name belongs in that conversation without hesitation. Alex Eala is not waiting for the future of women's tennis to arrive. She is actively shaping it, match by match, decision by decision, with a quiet confidence that suggests she understands exactly where she is headed.